This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so what was the concept we have discussed yesterday?
MQ logs, error log.
Okay, MQ error logs have been completed. Now the transaction logs is pending, right? So if I go to logs, so queue manager level errors, triple write mechanism, software level errors. Now the transaction logs. Okay, so before going to the transaction logs, we need to understand one small concept in IBM MQ. So let's finish that small concept and then we'll go with the transaction logs. So if I open the course content, okay, so logs, this is in progress. Okay, okay. Now the thing is, we have not discussed about the configuration files, right? So in MQ, there is a small concept called configuration file, which is very, very important. So we'll discuss about this configuration file and then we'll continue with the logging mechanism. Okay. Configuration files. Okay. Okay. Configuration files. So tell me one thing. When you hear about the word called a configuration file, what do you think? What does a configuration file contains?
The configuration parameters setup.
Sorry.
The configuration parameter, it contains some configuration parameters.
Exactly. So configuration file contains the configuration parameters. So by seeing this configuration file, we can come to a judgment how this instance has been configured. Like that kind of idea we are going to get. So the same way in MQ, we are having configuration files. So a configuration file describes the configuration of particular instance. So in MQ, there are two types of configuration files. They are queue manager configuration file and MQ configuration file. So we already know that, okay, configuration file describes configuration of a particular instance. Now, the name queue manager configuration file, by saying that name, we can understand this queue manager configuration file describes the particular queue manager configuration. So for example, in a server, we have, let's suppose, 3 queue managers. So every queue manager definitely having its own configuration, right? So each and every queue manager will be having its own configuration. So by seeing the particular queue manager configuration, we can understand, okay, so this is how this queue manager has been configured. Now let's come to the MQ configuration file. So this file contains all the queue managers information details in a particular server. So for example, in a server, let's assume there are 5 queue managers. So all these 5 queue managers information will be stored in one file that is called MQ configuration file. So it will be having a high level information. Okay, so this queue manager is associated with this queue manager is associated with this, like that. It will be having all the queue managers information. Now let's take some deep dive into each and every configuration file. So first of all, let's start with the queue manager configuration file. Queue manager configuration file describes the particular queue manager configuration. So this is denoted by qm.ini. So in any MQ server, if you see any file with the name qm.ini, you have to understand that, okay, so this belongs to a particular queue manager configuration file. So the default path of this configuration file would be, in Windows, it will be like this, but let's come to the Unix. In Unix, it will be in working path, which is var npm queue managers, go to that particular queue manager name directory, and then there is a file called qm.ini. So this qm.ini here, this qm.ini describes about the configuration of this queue manager information. For example, in our server, we have 2 queue managers, QM1, QM2. Okay, so they are in shutdown. So let me start them. Now they are running. Hope the font size is okay. Okay. Now as there are two queue managers, it means there must be two configuration files because every queue manager will be having its own configuration file. If there are 5 queue managers, definitely there will be five queue managers. It means 5 qm.ini files. So if I want to open qm.ini of queue manager 1, which is qm1, the path I should go is the working path of qm1, which is var mqm queue managers, and then go to qm1. Now we are in this directory, qm1 directory. If I list the content here, there are a hell lot of files and directories. Out of this, yesterday we have already seen errors directory, correct? Now we are understanding a new file called that is called qm.ini, so which describes qm1 configuration. So if I open this file, this qm.ini file look like this. So it is having some stanzas. If you see exit path, it's a stanza, log stanza, service component, channel stanza, TCP stanza. So it will be having stanzas like this. So each and every stanza having its own purpose. But we are more cautious about log stanza only. Okay. So what is this log stanza? What is this log primary files? What is this log secondary file? Everything we are going to discuss in the transaction logs. So let's wait for a few minutes until we jump into transaction logs. So we are going to discuss about these things. Okay. So right now, just remember this file having some stanzas where log stanza is the main important need for us. Now I'm closing this file. Now, if I want to open configuration of QM2, the path I should go is cd var mqm queue managers QM2. Now we are in QM2 working path. If I do list the content here, there is a file called qm.ini. So if I open this file, see, this is qm2 qm.ini. So it is also having the same configuration details. Fine. So that's it about the qm.ini file. So very simple, right? Now let's talk about the MQ configuration file. So this file contains all the queue manager's information details in a particular server. So the name is denoted by mqs.ini. So in any MQ server, if you see a file called mqs.ini, it means you have to understand that, okay, so this is entire MQ configuration file of this server. So the path of this file would be like this. In Unix, it will be var mqm mqs.ini. In the base working path directory, this file will be there. So for example, if I go to var mqm path, let me increase the font size. If I go to var mqm path, if I do ls minus lrt, so yesterday we have already seen about errors directory in var mqm, which is contains software level errors. Now we are learning a new file called mqs.ini. So if I open this file contains, if I come down, see, it will be having two entries, queue manager qm1, which is having working path of var mqm, and the directory in var mqm is qm1, and it is associated with the name with the installation called installation1. So here installation1 is mq9.1. Also queue manager qm2, it is prefixed with the var mqm file system under the directory qm2, and it is associated with the installation1. So where installation1 is the mq9.1 in this machine. So for example, if I do dsp mqver, you see this mq9.1 is associated with the name called installation1. So installation1 means it is associated with the version 9.1. So right now in our server there are only two queue managers, qm1, qm2. That is the reason in mqs.ini there are only two queue manager entries. Now if I create one more queue manager, say crt mqm qm3. Now this queue manager has been created. Of course it is down, that is fine. Now if I open mqs.ini, vi mqs.ini, if you come down, now see there is one more entry there for qm3 because we have created qm3 entry. So when we execute a program called crt mqm for creating a queue manager, that crt mqm program that is going to create an entry in mqs.ini. So this is another work of CRT MQM. So CRT MQM program, it does a lot of things. Okay, now if I delete QM3, see this entry will be gone. DLT MQM QM3 done. QM3 deleted. Now if you open mqs.ini file, now see there will be only two entries. See QM1 and QM2. There is no QM3 because DLT MQM program has deleted the entire directory structure and also deleted the entry from mqs.ini file. So this is what CRT MQM and DLT MQM program does. Okay, now I will show you one thing here. When you want to change manually, when you want to manually change the configuration of mqs.ini, be cautious, be 100% sure what you are exactly doing. So for example, I will tell you one scenario. I will show you one scenario here. So here right now, QM1 is in running status. Why it is in running status? Because in mqs.ini, QM1 is associated with the installation name called installation1, and in this mission, installation1 is a recognized MQ software. So installation1 is associated with, installation1 is associated with 9.1, where 9.1 is a recognized MQ software in this operating system. So we have set it as a primary installation during the time of installation. So that's why it is able to recognize that binaries, that MQ 9.1 binaries, and it is came to running status. Now see, I am manually editing mqs.ini. So for example, for QM1, right? For installation name, I am changing it to say installation 2, where installation 2 is not at all there. So there is no MQ with the name installation 2 in this operating system. Now I am saving the file. Cannot write BI info file. Why? Okay, fine. It's been edited. So file has been edited with the installation 2, but with the installation 2, there is no MQ installed on this operating system. So this operating system doesn't know what is meant by installation 2. Now if I execute DSP MQ, so before editing this line, QM1 was running fine without issues. But now see, what is the status of the queue manager? Status not available, which is a problematic status of a queue manager. Status not available means in the mqs.ini you have explicitly given that this QM1 should point to installation 2 operate MQ binaries, but installation 2 is not a recognized thing in this operating system. That's why operating system says, hey, the status, no, it's not available. Installation 2 is not available. So that is the reason when you are editing mqs.ini, be cautious, be sure, and you have to be 100% sure when you are editing a configuration file. Even if we have 99.99% clarity, even though don't do that. When you have total 100% clarity, then only execute the command, because these configuration files are really dangerous in real time. If we change a small thing and if you are unable to understand what you did, that's it, you are gone. It will take days to fix the issue. Understand? Is that point clear?
Yes, sir. Sir, in case of upgrade, what will happen?
Good question. So for example, right now we are using MQ 9.1 version. Let's suppose tomorrow IBM MQ 10 version released. Now the thing is, when you want to upgrade, like the thing is, you have to install entire base version MQ9 and then you have to install MQ10. So at that time, MQ10 will be associated with the installation 1. You no need to change about it.
Okay. Sir, but in case of upgradation, how we are upgrading MQ, like that is altogether different concept?
So it's simple, right? Upgradation is very simple. So for example, right now in this server, we have what kind of MQ version RPM packages? 9.1 MQ package, right? So if you want to upgrade all your MQ in this mission, what you have to do is you have to shut down all the queue managers using npm command. After shutting down, you have to uninstall all your 9.1 packages. After uninstalling, you have to install MQ version 10 binaries and then set your MQ as the primary installation and then start your queue managers so that they will be automatically started with the version 10 binaries. As simple as that.
In case of Windows, sir?
Windows also same. Shut down the queue managers, uninstall MQ9 and install MQ10 and then start the queue managers. That's it.
Sir, but in case of Windows, we have not ever uninstalled the MQ and install it once again, because if you uninstall the MQ, all the queue manager will be gone, no?
No. Who said it won't go? Who said it won't go?
Then
Okay.
how?
Shall I do one thing? Shall I okay. Okay, you want to see that in Windows?
Sir, like any machine you can show, but I am just saying ki, like if you uninstall anything and configure something, then as per my understanding, all things will be there. But if you uninstall, the all working directories, NQ managers will be gone. So this
No.
is my understanding, sir.
No, that's not correct. So right now we'll do one thing. I will install all the MQ packages right away and I will show you. Okay.
Okay.
So for example, right now QM1 status not available because installation 2 has been associated in mqs.ini. So let me change it back. So I will change it back to installation 1, where installation 1 is a recognized operating system. Sorry, recognized MQ in this machine. Now see, queue manager again came back to running status, which is fine. Now what I will do is I need to uninstall MQ. So to uninstall MQ, simple. First of all, we need to shut down the queue manager because without shutting down the queue managers, MQ binaries won't be uninstalled. So I will shut down QM1. Perfect. Now I will shut down QM2. Perfect. So here I have shut down the queue managers. So I have not deleted them. Okay. Now the thing is, these are the MQ packages which are there in this machine. Now I will uninstall all these packages. So to uninstall the packages, the command look like this, guys. So you need to switch to root user. That is point number 1. So to switch to root user, su minus root. So I know the root password and I am entering my root password. Done. I am as a root user now. So still the queue managers are there. They are not deleted. They are still exist. Now let me query all my MQ packages. So these are all my MQ packages. So now I am uninstalling them. So uninstalling is very simple. RPM minus EV. E stands for erase. It means we are erasing all MQ packages. And then give all your MQ packages in a single shot. So SDK, Java, samples, jar. Now packages are getting uninstalled. Done. Now it's uninstalled. Now if I grep all my MQ packages, if I query all my MQ packages, see the output is nothing. It means all these packages uninstalled. Now if I execute dspmq command not found, dspmq, so there is no such file. It means command not found. But in the back end, these directory structures are not deleted. These queue managers are not deleted. These queue managers still exist. For example, because these are just directory structures, right? Queue managers will be deleted when you execute a command called dltmqm. That's it. Here we have not executed dltmqm. dltmqm is the only command.
Sir, but like if you uninstall, like if any program or any utility is using any folder or path or directory for its working as a working directory, then it should get deleted or it should get removed, na sir? For any
No,
software.
no. MQ pack IS will be installed in the installation path, which is OPT MQM. So OPT MQM must have been deleted by now. For example, if I go to OPT MQM, see OPT MQM is now not there because you have uninstalled MQ pack IS and MQ pack IS are in this path and they are gone. But these directories will be in var MQM path, and var MQM path will be having the directories. If you see, if I go to QMGRS directory, there are entries because these entries can be removed and deleted with the help of DLT MQM. That's it. When you execute DLT MQM, then only it is going to hit the working path. But if you uninstall MQ binaries, that is going to hit the installation path of MQ binaries, not the working path. So that's how MQ behaves.
Okay, but sir, you don't think so it is risky like to uninstall entire
No.
software and upgrade?
No. If it is uninstalling MQ software means you have to uninstall the binaries and then you have to remove the directories. I mean, var MQM directory manually. Then it's a complete installation. I mean, complete removal.
Okay.
Okay. But the thing is, now, for example, my task is, let's assume I want to upgrade to version 10. But the queue managers will be having lot of objects, say hundreds of queues, hundreds of channels. So the thing is, you have to uninstall MQ, and when let's assume if you uninstall MQ, let's suppose QM1 directory is also gone. Now you have installed MQ binaries. Again, you have to create a queue manager, and again you have to manually create all the hundreds of objects, which is the risky for you when you want to upgrade.
Correct.
So that is the problem. This is how MQ is going to behave. This is how IBM configured MQ behavior.
Okay. I took sir a software example wherein I need to upgrade. So I thought it will be same for MQ as well.
I understand that, but MQ behaves in this fashion, not in that fashion.
Okay.
So binaries will be, binaries will be in the installation path, and installation path is gone because you uninstalled MQ. But the queue manager directory structure will be in the working path, and working path will be touched when you execute CRT MQM or DLT MQM. That's it.
Sir, in case of upgrade, what all backups we should take?
Simple. Queue manager backup. I mean, how many queue managers are there? All the queue managers backup. Then the file systems backup, var MQM backup. When you have this full backup, you are good to go for the backup.
So /var MQM backup is sufficient, you mean to say?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
/var MQM backup and then queue managers backup. So how to take the queue managers backup? Yes, in the future classes we are going to see that.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So let me install. Yeah, no problem. So let me install MQ back. So I think my MQ is in var TMP. It's in var TMP. Okay. I think where did we install? Oh, mission rebooted. It means temporary will be gone. Okay, fine. So let me get the MQ software again. So it will be in terms MQ Linux 9.1. Okay, so I'm getting back my MQ software to the server. So let's wait for a few minutes.
So sir, in MQM.ini, the installation name will be the same, right? Like you are uninstalling, so it will remove the entry.
You mean mqs.ini entry?
Yes.
So mqs.ini is in which path? It is in working path or it is in installation path?
It is in working path /var/MQM.
So when we uninstall MQ, working path never touch. So
Sir,
it will
can
be
you
there.
show that entry right now?
Sure, why not? So var mqm ls minus lrt. Here is my mqs.ini. If I cat it, see entries are there.
Okay. Now you are installing 9.1 once again, correct?
Correct.
So this installation names will be changed or it will be same?
No, it won't change because right now with the name installation one, there is no installation in this operating system. So when
Correct.
we install back, it will be associated with the installation one only. So it doesn't
Okay.
change. So for example, if I go to pen and here is my file system. Now I'm untearing it, tar minus xzbf. So it's getting unteared. Okay. Now, so there is a directory called MQ server. Go here. Now let's accept the MQ license. Oh, hold on. Typo mistake. Press enter to continue or press 1 to accept. Okay. Agreement is now accepted. Now I will install all my MQ packages. RPM minus IBH, MQ series runtime, MQ series Java, MQ series JRE, MQ series server, MQ series SDK. What else? What else? What else? MQ series samples. Is there right? Server SDK samples. MQ series samples. Done. I am installing. So now runtime is getting installed. Now JRE is getting installed. Now server package is getting installed. SDK sample done. So if I do RPM minus QA 5 grep minus I MQ, fine. I can see all my packages now. Now I need to set it as a primary installation. So if I go to opt npm bin dot slash set mq inst minus I minus p opt npm done. DS now let me switch to npm user. Now DSPMQ VER, DSPMQ done. STRMQM1. Now STRMQM QM2 done. As simple as that. So we have never deleted these queue managers, but without touching these queue managers, we just uninstall the binaries and we have installed the binaries. That's it. Understand? And if you see here, MQ9.1 is associated with the name installation 1 only.
Yes, sir.
Clarified? Got a clarity now?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. So where are we? Hope Sachin, you are also getting the things right. No confusion, right?
No, sir. I'm good.
All right. Okay, so that's all with the MQ configuration file. Yeah. So the blind thing you have to remember in the configuration file is when you want to change any configuration, make sure you have 100% clear on it. Then only change it. If you have single doubt, never perform that, because these configuration files are really dangerous, guys, in the real time. And I am telling this with my personal experience. I really faced a big issue with this. That's what I'm. That's why I'm pressing this like this. All right, so that's all with the configuration files. Now we are ready to move to the transaction logs. So with this, the configuration file, I can mark it as completed.
Sir,
Now,
second configuration files are pending, na?
which one? mks.ini?
Okay, so that was second configuration file. Okay.
Yeah, first one is qm.ini, queue manager configuration file. Second one is mks.ini. So qm.ini inside the parameters that we are going to discuss in the transaction logs. I will tell you about the logs stanza.
Okay, sir. Fine.
Okay. So in the transaction logs, we'll again discuss about the qm.ini.
Okay.
Now let's come to the transaction logs. So transaction logs again takes 40 to 45 minutes to complete. Let's see if time permits or not. Now only 20 minutes. Okay, that's fine. Okay, transaction logs. As we already aware, the transaction logs record each and every transaction of the queue manager. It means that these logs are generally used for the recovery of the queue manager from various types of failure. So the main advantage of the transaction logs is for the queue manager internal purpose. Just like if any queue manager got failed or any queue manager got shut down, with the help of the existing transaction logs, that can be recovered very easily. So for example, right now I am shutting down the queue manager QM2. So let's say it is shut down. So getting shut down means it's like a kind of failure. But of course, but here we have manually shut down the queue manager. But shut down means it's a down only, right? Now, if I want to start the queue manager, blindly we can execute strnpm and then qm2 command, so that queue manager will start. But when your queue manager is getting started, you see a line here, 5 log records accessed on the queue manager QM2 during log reply phase. It means whenever we execute this program, so before the queue manager came to running state, in the backend, this queue manager is accessed 5 transaction logs, so that this queue manager came up. It means we are recovering this queue manager from the failure status. So for these kind of things, this queue manager, these transaction logs are going to be very helpful. If this transaction logs got corrupted or this transaction logs got deleted, then I'm sure this queue manager will never come back. Here the transaction logs are available. That is the reason queue manager is able to up. Otherwise, queue manager will never come back. So queue manager records all significant changes in the transaction logs. It means when we create any object in the queue manager, it's a transaction that will be recorded in the transaction logs. When our application connected to the queue manager and putting a message, it's a transaction related to the queue manager, and that will be recorded in the transaction log of the queue manager. So like, yeah, creating and deleting objects, changes to object attributes, channel activities like starting a channel, stopping a channel, that is also a transaction. So persistent message details and its updates, like whenever a persistent message entered the queue, that will be updated in the transaction logs like this. So record can be done in the transaction log using a checkpoint file. So in MQ, for every queue manager, there is a person called checkpoint file. So with the help of this checkpoint file only, the queue manager is able to record all its transaction in the transaction log files. So this checkpoint file plays really a crucial role for a queue manager. So now let's see what does a checkpoint file does, what its exact duty. So checkpoint file is denoted by amqalchk.fil. So whenever you see a file with this name in the MQ working path, you have to understand, okay, so this is the checkpoint file of a queue manager. So this is denoted by amqalchk.fil, and it will be in the queue manager working path. So for example, right now in our server we have two queue managers, QM1 and QM2. It means QM1 will be having its own checkpoint file and QM2 will be having its own checkpoint file. So if I want to see the checkpoint file of QM1, I will go to the working path of QM1. Now we are in QM1 working path. If I do list here, so there is a file called amqalchk.fil. So this checkpoint file is responsible to manage the transaction log files of QM1. Now if I want to see the checkpoint file of QM2, the path I should go is the working path of QM2, which is where MQM, queue managers, QM2. If I do ls-l, see again there is a checkpoint file for QM2. So this checkpoint file is responsible to manage the transaction logs of QM2. So in this working path, we already know a few things, right? We know about rs directory, we know about qm.ini. Now we are learning a new thing that is called amqlchk.fil, which is a checkpoint file which manages the transaction logs. So checkpoint file is most important thing for the transaction logs, and checkpoint file determines the set of log files that are needed to perform restart recovery. So restart recovery means whenever a queue manager is down, we are going to restart the queue manager. We are going to start the queue manager. That is called queue manager restart recovery. So this checkpoint file is going to understand, okay, how many transaction logs are needed in order to perform a successful queue manager restart recovery. So that is determined by checkpoint file only. For example, when we are about to start the queue manager QM2, it has access to 5 transaction logs, right? Now the question is, how does the queue manager know I have to access 5 transaction log files? In the back end, the queue manager 2's checkpoint file instructed the queue manager, hey, access all these transaction log files so that you can start. So that instruction has been passed to the queue manager with the help of checkpoint file. So if the checkpoint file got deleted, then this queue manager, I'm sure it won't never come back. So checkpoint file is automatically taken by the queue manager. So it's completely an automation thing. So from MQ admin perspective, we have nothing to do technically, but we have to understand what's happening. That's it. So checkpoint is taken, queue manager start and shut down. So just now we have seen. And if the queue manager is running on low logging space, for example, if there are no enough transaction log files of a queue manager, then also the checkpoint file wants the queue manager, hey queue manager, you don't have enough transaction log files to hold this transaction, to record this transaction. So checkpoint file decides from where the transaction record should begin. So the checkpoint file is going to decide if a new transaction is about to start, this transaction should be written from this place of the queue manager transaction log. So checkpoint file is going to decide that. Now I will show you that point with as a diagram. So let's assume we have a brand new queue manager, say QM1, and let's assume it is having 3 transaction log files, say transaction log file 1, transaction log file 2, and transaction log file 3. So right now these are empty because it's a brand new queue manager. Right now no transaction has happened, so everything is empty. Now whenever the transaction log files are empty, in the beginning the checkpoint file of that particular queue manager indicates the beginning line, the beginning position of the first transaction log file. Whenever checkpoint file is in this position, it means the queue manager understand, okay, I have to write down my transaction from this location. That is the meaning of checkpoint file position. So if any transaction is happened, for example, I have created a local queue, so that will be recorded here because checkpoint file position is here. So as soon as this line got filled, immediately the checkpoint file position will move to the next line. It means the queue manager understand the next transaction I have to write down from here. So if it has written next transaction, then automatically checkpoint file will be moved to the next position. Like this, based on your transaction that is happening, the checkpoint file position keep moving. So this is how the checkpoint file position is going to move. So clear with the checkpoint file position. This is completely backend. We can't see that. So clear with this.
Sir, why
Yes,
three files?
Sorry.
Why three file? Here also that concept
No.
is there. Three tab, triple
No.
file.
No. Here I have just assumed that there are three files. There could be one file, there could be 10 files, there could be 100 files of the transactions. Depends on the size. That how many files will be having, that we are going to see in the next session. But right now I just blindly assumed, let's assume there are three files. That's it.
Okay, what is the maximum size of the transaction log file, sir?
4 KB. One transaction log file, 4 KB.
Okay.
Okay, that we are going to discuss in the next sessions. Okay, so to calculate the transaction log files, there is a big logic, there is a big calculation for that we are going to see. So just hold for some time.
Okay.
Now transaction log types. This one we already aware. So there are two types of transaction logs, which is circular logs and the linear logs. If you remember a diagram yesterday I have shown, let me show one more time. See, MQ logs, error logs, transaction logs. Error logs we have already seen yesterday. Now today we are going to discuss on the transaction logs. So the transaction logs are two types: circular logs, linear logs. So whenever a queue manager is created, the queue manager is going to record this transaction based on circular logging mechanism or based on linear logging mechanism. So although it is a circular logging mechanism or although it is a linear logging mechanism, the primary files and secondary files concept is going to be same. So these primary files and secondary files are the actual transaction logs, but these primary and secondary files are going to record the transaction in circular logging mechanism or linear logging mechanism. That is going to make the difference between circular logging queue manager and linear logging mechanism. But basically, transaction logs are of two types: circular logs and linear logs. So okay, so circular logs means in circular logs, the queue manager records the transaction in circular mechanism. So what is the circular mechanism? Yes, we're going to discuss about it. So let's hold on for some time. So if you want to create a queue manager in circular mechanism, the syntax is like below: CRT-MQM minus LC and the queue manager name. So right now, till now, if we want to create a queue manager, the only command we know is CRT-MQM and then the queue manager name. So that queue manager will be created. But the thing is, now I am specifically giving my queue manager should be as a circular logging mechanism. So we have to execute CRT-MQM minus LC, which stands for circular log, and then the queue manager name, so that the queue manager will be created in a circular logging mechanism. So by default, every queue manager is created in a circular logging queue manager. It means when we have not specified any flag over here, it means by default the queue manager will be considered, okay, I am a circular logging queue manager. So for suppose right now in our server we have two queue managers, and we have blindly created this queue manager using CRT-MQM QM1, so that the queue manager has been created. So it means QM1 QM2 will be circular logging queue manager only, because by default queue manager will be created as a circular queue manager. For example, if I open qm.ini of QM1, so vi var mqm queue managers QM1, and then qm.ini. So here I'm opening qm.ini of qm1. You see here in the log stanza there is something called log type. So log type is equal to circular. It means this qm1 is a circular logging queue manager, because by default the queue manager will be behaved as a circular logging queue manager. Now if I open the qm.ini of qm2, so qm2 is also a circular log type. Now let me create another queue manager. Let's suppose CRTMQM QM3. Here I am not specifying anything. I am just blindly giving CRTMQM QM3. It means it will be taken as a default behavior. It means QM3 is a circular logging queue manager. For example, if I go to var nqm queue managers QM3 and then qm.ini. Oh, where is it? CD var nqm queue managers qm3 qm.ini. Oh, sorry. So, qm.ini. What?
Sir, you are specifying CD.
Oh, okay. Var nqm, got it. qmgrs qm3 qm.in. Okay. Now see, qm3 is created as a circular logging queue manager because that's the default behavior. Now, for example, if I specifically given say CRTMQM minus LC, which means circular log QM4, so QM4 will be created as a circular logging queue manager because you are explicitly specifying. Now QM4 has been created. If I go to var mqm queue managers QM4 qm.ini, see QM4 is a circular logging queue manager. So with the help of log stanza in the qm.ini of the queue manager, we can understand if the queue manager is a linear logging queue manager or a circular logging queue manager. So now let's come to the linear logs. So in linear logging, the queue manager records the transaction in linear mechanism. It means if you want to create a queue manager in linear mechanism, the syntax is like below: CRTMQM minus LL. It means log linear, and then give the queue manager name so that queue manager will be created in a linear logging fashion. For example, if I create a queue manager CRTMQM minus LL, which means log linear, and then I am giving my queue manager name as QM5. So it's now created. QM5 is created. Now if I open the qm.ini of QM5, where MQM queue managers QM5 and then qm.ini. You see, for QM5, the log type is linear. It means QM5 is a linear logging queue manager. So this is how we can create a queue manager either in circular logging mechanism or in a linear logging mechanism. Okay, we'll do one thing. So today we are going to stop the session by here. Now tomorrow we are going to do a deep dive of a primary files and secondary files of it, circular logging and linear logging, because this will take another 30 minutes of the session. So I really don't want to continue for next 30 minutes because that will be heavy for you. So tomorrow we are going to see this primary and secondary files. Okay.
Okay, sir, no problem.
Okay, sure, guys. So tomorrow is Sunday, right? So
Yeah,
Sunday we can skip. So we will again meet on Monday.
Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much.